Thanks, Josh. I want to reiterate what Josh said. This is an amazing facility. My first time here. Thank you to the ownership here for letting us host this event and get together and celebrate the gift of life and for all that you've done to help with this cause. I want to thank Josh and Stacy for embracing this cause so near and dear to their heart. Even though that they haven't personally had an experience with it, they've obviously cared so much about others that it's become a labor of love and a passion of both of theirs. So thank you very much. My name is Robert Bodwin. I am most, I guess, famously or infamously, depending on your perspective, known as the Rockets mascot for the last 21 years. The guy behind the bear, inside the bear costume. I got a applause for this one. Sometimes I get Japanese and tomatoes through it. So I just retired from the Rockets and opened up my own business. But for the last 21 years, I've done over 1,000 games and 6,000 appearances. I'm here in an official capacity as a board member for Life Gift, the organ procurement organization here in Houston that facilitates all of the donors and the recipients and matches them, as well as the Todd Krampus Foundation right over here, whose sole mission is to get everybody to say yes to organ donation. For those of you that might not be that familiar with some of the statistics, there's about 26 million Texans. There's about 17 million that are eligible donors to sign up for themselves right now. We have about 8.5 million. We're about 50%. When I got involved with the cause in 2012, we were at 2.9 million. So we've done a lot of good work and made a lot of ground, but we've got a lot of work to do. Because every time somebody makes that decision to be an organ donor, it takes it out of the hands of the family who's dealing with the worst tragedy in their life. Think about it, most organ donors come from tragedies like gunshot accidents and car accidents and wounds of those natures. They don't come from long, prolonged illnesses. So it happens abruptly. And those people and those families in the wake of that tragedy are left with the worst decision that you could ever be left with. And none of us really want to think about that and fathom what it would be like to be in that place. That's why it's so important for us as individuals to take that decision out of our family's hands, make it for ourselves, so that they don't have to deal with things like that when the unthinkable happens. I'm also here as a representative of the Houston Sports Authority, the Transplant Games Host Committee. We had the games here in 2014. Donna Esposito, where are you? Wave your hand for me, please. Donna's at the back table there. She works for Team Texas and brings people all over the country. We hosted it here. She was instrumental in it when we got it in Houston. And she brings Team Texas all over the country, people that have received the gift of life, and then they compete in Olympic-style events, which is really an emotional and amazing thing to see. The real reason that I'm here standing before you tonight, though, is that my father, Paul, had a double lung transplant in 2012, February 2012. He was suffering from idiopathic pulmonary fibrosis. If you don't know what that is, neither did we. It's a non-lifestyle related hardening of the lungs. There's no known treatment and there's no known cause. Some people get it and they're diagnosed with it and they pass in 6 months. Some people live with it in a degenerative state for 20 years. My father had it for 4 years from diagnosis. In late 2011, he started to dip to the point where he couldn't attend Rockets games. To see me get paid a whole bunch of money to throw cakes in people's faces. He was kind of bedridden and housebound, more, I should say. In early 2012, I went out for lunch with my identical twin boys one day, and I was having lunch with him before a road trip, and he couldn't even get through a sentence. And I said, you know, Dad, let me have your doctor's numbers. He was a little old school. And it was really tough to get his doctor's numbers from him. He was, you know, he wanted to take care of himself. He was very proud, and fathers make the rules, not sons. You know, he just said to me, I'll be fine. I have testing in 2 weeks, and they'll see if I'm eligible for a transplant. Which, at that time in our family, the concept of transplantation almost seemed science fiction. It seemed like a long shot. It seemed like there's so many people on the list. It's going to be so expensive, and it's going to be such a trial. It wasn't really being considered by my father, despite our family's urging. Anyway, he says to me, don't worry, 2 weeks I have this testing. And I said, Dad, I'm not worried about 2 weeks from now. I'm worried about you dying in the next 8 days when I'm on this trip with the Rockets. And he just kind of lowered his eyes and said, the numbers are in on my nightstand. I got the numbers, I called the hospital. I said his oxygen levels were in the 60s the night before, and they said, what? Get him to the emergency room immediately. So I picked up my 2 identical twin boys that are 2.5, screaming their heads off and needed their diapers changed, and got my mother and my father and threw them all in the car, and we sped down to the medical center, to Methodist, and within about, I don't know, an hour of being at the ER, the doctor came out and said, your father's very sick. His idiopathic pulmonary fibrosis has taken hold, and he's also had it complicated with a serious case of pneumonia, and he's going to pass within the next 12 weeks unless he gets a lung transplant. A week later, we got on the transplant list in position number 2, and a week after that, on February 15th, 2012, he got his second chance at life, and he got his double lung transplant. And now, this coming February, 5 years post-transplant, he is carrying, right now, the reason that my wife Amy and I are able to be here is because he and my mother are at my house out in Spring caring for our twins that are 7.5 years old, as well as my second set of twins that are 6 weeks old. So
great job.
He's living proof that the gift of life truly is an amazing gift. The last thing that I want to leave you with is when my dad was in the hospital, I was visiting him every single day. And I really kind of embraced running at that point in my life. And, you know, I've embraced marriage right now, as you can tell in my life. But then I was running every day, and I was going to the hospital, and I saw this life gift table in the atrium of Methodist. And I went up, and I didn't know much about it, and I said, what is this? This seems like it has something to do with transplantation. They said, yes. Are you an organ donor? I said, of course. I remembered growing up in the suburbs of Philadelphia, checking the box, organ donor, when I got my license. And they said, okay, can you pull out your license? And I reached into my wallet, and I pulled out my license. And now, there's that little heart down there in that corner. But at the time, there wasn't. And I immediately felt ashamed. And I immediately felt horrible. Here I am at the hospital. My father is getting his second chance at life, and I wasn't an organ donor. And in the blink of an eye, I realized the biggest issue here is not that there's a whole bunch of people out there saying no to organ donation. There's just a lot of people out there that aren't aware of it and haven't taken that 60 seconds at donatelifetexas.org to register. You can do it from your phone, and it was that simple. I did it right there standing in front of the people on my smartphone, and then said, what can I do to help with this cause? And that's really why this has become, like Josh, a labor of love for me. And I'm just so happy that families like Carson's are willing to share their personal story, because not a lot of people have that kind of courage to put themselves on display. And I can tell you, I am sure of one thing. The fact that they're willing to do this, and that Josh is putting his heart and soul and passion and blood, sweat, and tears into this project, it's going to save lives. And everybody in this room has helped save lives tonight too. Enjoy your dinners.